Good morning and welcome to the 54th annual meeting of the Southern States Energy Board. I want to begin by thanking Governor Bentley and his staff and our Alabama legislative members, House Majority Leader Mickey Hammond, Senator Cam Ward, and Representative Randy Davis for all of their hard work to make this such a successful event. Further, I want to give special thanks to Jill Boxler of the Alabama-Washington office, who has been so wonderful to work with as our primary contact for this meeting. I cannot say enough about the tremendous support day after day that we've received from our good friends at Alabama Power Company. And I want to pay special tribute to CEO Mark Crosswhite, Nick Sellers, Jim Young, R.B. Walker, and Denise Legates. And many thanks for everything. Without their incredible professional efforts, this meeting would not have been possible. Our sponsors have endowed us with the means to make this a special event in honor of our chairman and all of our board members and guests who are attending this 54th annual meeting from throughout the South and the country. Accolades from us today as we honor your commitment and generosity. At the platinum level, Alabama Coal Association, Alabama Coal Cooperative, Alabama Power Company, Balch and Bingham, LLC, Chevron, and the Drummond Company. At the gold level, Dominion and Terex. At the silver level, Alabama Farmers Federation, Alabama Municipal Electric Authority, Alabama State Port Authority, Alpha Natural Resources, the Government of Canada at Alberta, Maynard Cooper and Gale, Power South, Southeast Gas District, Southern Company, Virginia Coal and Energy Alliance. At the bronze level, the American Coalition for Clean Coal Electricity, ExxonMobil, Phillips 66, SCANA, North Star Utility Solutions, Nuclear Energy Institute, the Williams Company, and Zero RPM. At the exhibitor level, Electric Cooperatives of Alabama and Troutman Sanders. Our meeting today reminds me of a story about Dr. Albert Einstein, the renowned physicist, who was honored by Time magazine as the man of the 20th century. Einstein was traveling from Princeton on a train when a young conductor came down the aisle punching the tickets of every passenger. When he approached the great man, Einstein reached into his vest pocket and found no ticket. He looked in his briefcase and couldn't find it. He looked in his coat. He looked at the seat on the seat beside him. No ticket. The conductor said, "Dr. Einstein, I know who you are. We all know who you are. I'm sure you bought a ticket. Don't even worry about it." Einstein nodded appreciatively, and the conductor continued down the aisle punching his tickets. But as he was ready to move to the next car, the conductor turned around and saw the great physicist down on his hands and knees on the floor looking for his ticket. The conductor rushed back and said, Dr. Einstein, don't worry. I know who you are, no problem. You don't need a ticket. I'm sure you bought one." Einstein gazed up at the man and said, "Young man, I too know who I am. What I need to know is where I'm going." So one of the key challenges that we at the Southern States Energy Board face over the next 2 days is to better understand where we're going vis-a-vis the energy issues and policies that confront our Southern States region and the nation. One of the most notorious examples of how not to do energy policy has been the German energy wende, or energy revolution, as they call it. Beginning in 2010, Germany employed an ambitious national energy transition period, and the drive was for growth of renewable energy supported by generous subsidies, with a downturn in the use of coal and the elimination of nuclear power due to the Fukushima disaster. The results have included a mixed bag of unintended consequences. Today, German consumers are paying twice as much for electricity as their U.S. counterparts, and prices for industrial customers have gone up by over 30% just in the last 4 years. On top of this, German utilities have lost more than half of their market capitalization, while U.S. utilities are achieving healthy results on equity. This ploy has driven up Germany's carbon emissions since the plan didn't work, and without the stability of nuclear power, the country has reverted to mining their lignite and buying from us. I always like to say that we learn from history that we do not learn from history. Are we destined to repeat the mistakes that others have made, or will we take into account the key lessons from the Energiewende experience? In the German example, taking apart a tried and true energy system and replacing it with soft path renewables turned out to be a disaster. The Germans forgot to think about the major impact on their generation mix, on wholesale energy prices, on retail prices, and their impact on the economy, and on the operations and reliability of their grid. Replacing a reliable fuel source with an intermittent one requires extensive integrated resource planning and must be the result of collaboration between utilities, policymakers, regulators, and consumers. In Germany, for example, as much as 70% of their solar power is connected to the low voltage grid. So not only are the utilities not generating any income from solar, they need substantial upgrades to a grid that was not designed to take into account distributed generation and intermittent power. Today, experts would argue that Germany tried to do too much too fast. And while solar energy now makes up about 20% of their installed capacity, coal's share of total generation is up from 43 to 47% in 2013, and more coal plants are being built. Estimates of what the transition will cost vary widely, depending upon, in part, how fast new technology can be introduced and its price lowered. Various economic think tanks predict that the country will spend between $125 and $250 billion on infrastructure expansion and subsidies in the next 8 years, this will be about 3.5 to 7% of Germany's 2011 GDP. The long-term costs, including the expense of decommissioning nuclear power plants, will be far higher. Since I'm talking about transitions this morning, I'd like to focus on the monumental legislative changes to one of our member jurisdictions, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, just this year in 2014. Reorganization of the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority has been sought by governors and legislators since I first began traveling there in 1969. First, there was a push to go nuclear, then a push for coal. There's always been low-cost oil, at least every once in a while, so neither of those other options could really compete. But with today's higher prices, we knew that changes were imminent. I want to commend Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla, Speaker Jaime Parello, Representative Cesar Hernandez, Senate President Eduardo Batia, and Dr. Jose Maizo, who is our SSEB governor's alternate, for their fortitude, their courage, their strength, and their perseverance to pass this legislation. The Transformation and Energy Relief Act of Puerto Rico creates the Puerto Rico Energy Commission with the power to regulate energy companies and approve and revise rates, ensure prices in power purchase agreements, wheeling rates, and interconnection charges. Also regulates the wheeling of energy. The Act also creates the State Energy Public Policy Office, which is charged with developing and adopting energy policy and the legal successor to the Puerto Rico Energy Affairs Administration. I want to personally thank our federal representative, Jim Powell, for meeting with the governor and the legislative leadership on this groundbreaking legislation, and for aiding our staff in providing comments on the direction of the new law. This morning, we will hear a keynote from our chairman, Governor Robert Bentley of Alabama, followed by Canada's ambassador to the United States, the Honorable Gary Doer, and Christopher Gwythe, Senior VP at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. After a networking break, our incoming chairman, Governor Earl Ray Tomblin of West Virginia, will keynote. And then we will have a presentation from the Alabama Coal Association. We will then be pleased to welcome Mr. Mark Crosswhite, the CEO of Alabama Power, and our luncheon address will be given by Jonathan Levy, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Secretary of Energy. This afternoon, Alabama State Geologist Dr. Nick Tu will talk to us about recent discoveries of oil sands in the region and what is being done. Dr. Tu will be followed by a great panel of state legislators who will provide us perspectives and highlights of their 2014 legislative sessions. The 54th annual meeting of the board, the business meeting we call it, will take place at 3:30 in Moonlight Ballroom B, just behind us in that room, where we will hear from our federal representative and consider resolutions that are before us today. At 5:45, board members, speakers, and platinum and gold sponsors will depart for our evening gala at the USS Alabama battleship, followed by attendees and guests at 6:30. On Tuesday morning, we'll begin with a great, entertaining discussion of unconventional resources by Mike Moore, the Executive Director of the North American Carbon Capture and Storage Association. Dr. Julio Friedman of the United States Department of Energy will discuss international partnerships and American resources, focusing on China's entry and interests in the southern region. And Commissioner William Ostendorf of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission will bring us up to speed on nuclear issues and challenges. Following a networking break, we'll hear the outlook from the Tennessee Valley Authority by its chairman and CEO, Bill Johnson. The chairman of the Council of State Governments, Senator Mark Norris, will discuss his initiative on federalism, and our closing keynote will be a blockbuster presentation about congressional leadership on energy issues by Alabama U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions. So you don't want to miss that. It's going to be really good. This is one of the most exciting and entertaining programs that we've ever assembled, and I want to thank Governor Bentley again and his staff for working so hard to make this meeting a success.